Okay, so I was at a big meeting at a financial publisher over in the States last week. And as part of this meeting, there's maybe 100 people in the room. So tons and tons of people, the whole company, basically. A couple of the copywriters, or a handful of the copywriters, had to do like a panel. Okay. So we were all going to pitch our ideas, and then we were going to sort of see which ideas connected with the audience and which ones didn't. But we were going right after lunch. Okay. So I said, look, after lunch is the graveyard shift. You've got to get, like, the people have just, they got a belly full of food. They're sleepy. They're already getting a bit tired. Frankly, most of them are thinking, when do we get a beer? We got to get people like on their feet and a bit more engaged. So to begin with, what we did was we said, everybody, we're going to play a game. We're going to read out 6 ideas to you. And we want you to stand up if you would bet that idea will become the top winner of the year for this year. So it was like AI, Elon Musk, the end of the bull market. The final one was the death of the dollar, okay, which was going to be the idea that I was going to pitch, or one of the ideas that I was going to pitch. And absolutely nobody stood up for that last idea. No, not one person in the entire room stood up. And so when it came to be my turn, I had multiple ideas I wanted to talk about, but I started by saying, it's interesting that nobody stood up about that idea, because maybe it's given me a chance to explain why you're all wrong, which probably did enamor me to the room. But I thought, I'm going to make the case for why we should at least consider this, because, and this is the case I made, there are certain ideas, certain themes, which are almost eternal, going back 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Winning promotions have been written about that theme or a variation on that theme going back. So I said, Plague of the Black Death in the early 1990s, that was about the dollar. At End of America in 2010, that was about the dollar. And then I listed a load other, and I said, I don't know if we'll be able to write one of those packages this year, but I know based on the track record of that idea that it's probably worth our time, because there's a sort of history of people caring about that particular theme. Now, I don't think I changed anybody's mind, but I did think it was an interesting way into talking about how you recognize what those ideas that are kind of part of the zeitgeist might be. And I think that's what we should talk about today.
If you enjoy The Fix and want to get access to even more good stuff, join the Fix Accelerator today. Get access to special masterclasses from Nick and me, watch expert interviews with industry legends, join live copy feedback sessions every week, and get connected to our very own private copy network. Visit thefixaccelerator.com for more information.
Well, my inbox, I do a thing which all copywriters should do. I must admit, I don't do it. It used to be through choice. Now it's it's through being in the industry for too many years. But one of my inboxes has effectively become its own seed account, and this is what we call it, a seed account kind of thing. But you sign up for everything and you get all of the marketing. Now, anybody who works in this space, a copywriter in any area, should have that kind of inbox set up where they're receiving all of the marketing. Now, that's not to say you'd read everything, but I use that inbox, which is a mucky place. It's we're bombarded like wasteland of an email thing that I struggle to keep on top of. But what I look for is the zeitgeist. I'm using it to recognize ideas that are cropping up time and time again. And similarly to what you were saying, Nick, one of the ideas that you see a lot presently is this idea of a digital dollar. And I've seen it now for probably a couple of years being talked about. And now it's got to the point where Lift Notes and email copy just states it very boldly and directly. No one seems to care to even hide the idea or obfuscate it or go in directly. It's just stating it boldly. Now, I'm not interested in a debate around the effectiveness of the email copy. What I'm interested in is that's an idea that clearly is hit on the zeitgeist, that clearly, like Musk, like these, I'd say he's a present one. I'd say maybe a decade ago, everything was Amazon or Bezos and stuff like this. But these ideas that you can see them and you can recognize them, that they're there and they are working for whatever reason. They are the ideas that are touching the zeitgeist. As you say, that death of the dollar, that's an idea that has been there and there. It's not necessarily a thing that's happening in the world, but it's an idea that is always there in the zeitgeist, that could happen, that there's a problem with debt, that there's all these things. When you're a copywriter and you're seeking ideas, that's very difficult, and that's a whole different ball game. But being able to recognize, that's an idea that's in the public brain, that's in there, that is in that zeitgeist. How can I bring my the thing I'm selling, and that might be a product across the range of possible products and services, but how can I bring that into relevance to the ideas that I recognize are part of the zeitgeist? For example, we see now Musk, for good or bad, is all over the internet, all over the world. That is something that people are seeing, and we know from testing, from experience, that ideas that have Musk in them at the moment are working. So how do you bring an idea that you might be tasked with writing about, tasked with selling? And it could even be something as abstract. It doesn't necessarily need to be in the financial world. It could be shoes. You could find a way to link it to Musk so everybody sees, oh, it's Musk, what's that? That has a certain attraction to the public mind, and then you pivot into the product or service that you want to sell. What I'm interested from your experience in it, because you're close to this and you're close to that zeitgeist, you're seeing it all the time, and you're across the thing. How do you recognize when those ideas have become lodged in the
when they become sort of endemic? Okay, so I think we should talk about this, like, there's sort of two parts to this. The first is like how you recognize them, what qualities they have, and then the second thing is like how you then approach writing a piece of copy about them. They're kind of two different things, but we'll cover one and then the other, so as not to be too all over the place. So I think the first thing, right, to think about is you have to engage with the idea properly and not cynically. So you have to ask yourself, why is this idea that I'm seeing all over the place? You know, I'm seeing it pitched by high quality copy and low quality. You usually see the full spectrum. So I would call the one that just says digital dollar as quite low quality. It's just the words digital dollar. There's not much around it.
It is.
And you'll have high concept ones too. So I try and ask myself, why does that work? Why do I think that is? And people aren't very good at doing that, by the way. They tend to bring their own preconceived notion of why something is happening already. It's the same thing people do say about politics. They'll say, oh, everybody voted for X because they're racist. You think, okay. Or you can think, why did they vote for that guy? Why did they do that? Why did they behave in that way? Why is that idea attractive to people now? You have to have a really open mind about it. Usually it's because the central theme will have a few qualities to it. One, it will be in the news already. Okay. It will be present in some way. It won't be completely outside of the news, completely. It just, Elon Musk is one of the reasons copywriters like him is because he's sort of king of the news cycle at the moment. Same reason people like President Trump. We'll say we like about him. He's great at being in the news cycle. He makes the story about himself.
Also, just to cut in, that's not unique to Musk or Trump at the present moment. You go back to a time when every promo had Obama at the top, or every promo had Bezos, or all kind of references in, say, a Nike advert were to Shaq O'Neal or Michael. There are certain things that are in. It's not just because it's who they are now. It's because of those roles that people embody.
Yeah, think about it like there is a cast of characters that occupy part of your prospect sort of intellectual world, their dream space. There can't be that many, okay? Like beyond the people that they know, like their family.
At one time. Yeah. There can't be that many at one time. Yeah.
Can't be that many, and they'll change quite slowly. Okay, so in general, people don't generally just sort of bubble up out of nowhere and then go to zero. So like, okay, an example of that would be that that Hawk Tour girl. Like she just came out and no pun intended. She came out of nowhere. Where's she gone now? Like she was just suddenly everybody was talking about her. Like, okay, probably not prospects in the markets that we're talking about, but just imagine there are only 5, slots available that can occupy people's stores. People don't think about that many other people outside of their immediate life. So who are they hearing about? Who are they, who's part of that cast of characters? And that's if it's a person. Then there might be other things that are just like objects, like the dollar. Okay. And the thing that unifies them all is that these things kind of matter to everybody. They're part of our lives. They're not too niche. So just to sort of take a segue into the dollar, for instance, why do stories about the dollar work so well in America? Because everybody uses dollars. Everybody, whether you're an investor or not, you don't make a decision to own dollars. You just do. It's not like buying Apple, where some people own Apple and some people don't. You have to use dollars, just like you have to use a bank. So there are certain things that cut across everybody's life experience. And you have to remember with all of these things, you can't control any of this stuff. We're not public relations people. So for instance, I'm sure, who's Prince Harry's wife? What's her name?
Meghan Markle. Or Meghan.
Whatever.
Prince. I don't know what the surnames are.
Duchess of Sussex, although she doesn't want to be called that, actually. But she's, people like that might have PR teams that are there to sort of put them in the public light or take them out of the public light or whatever. We're not that. We can't do that with our product. We have to work with what's already out there, what people already care about. So we just got to start there. Okay. Got to work out what's part of that imaginary space. And then the next layer down would be, we want to find things, people, objects that are in some way a symbol of some deeper feeling that our reader might have. These people and these objects, these things, these zeitgeisty ideas tend to be emblematic of a deeper idea. So I'll just give you a couple of examples. The dollar in 2010 was acted as a sort of emblem for the worry you might have about the debt levels in the economy. We just bailed out the banks. How can that have happened and this not have consequences for the dollar? So all of these latent fears about this financial crisis might have come in some way to be connected in the reader's mind with the dollar. That how can we have printed all that money to pay the banks back and that not have an impact on this thing that I like? So it would be emblematic of that. Whereas the digital dollar probably wasn't that. It was probably more to do with the idea of surveillance and state control. We'd all just been locked down, told we couldn't leave our house. That was worrying to people, whether you supported it or not. That's nobody, unless you are, so unengaged with the world as to be virtually brain dead, didn't at least have the thought, this could lead us down a pretty tricky path. So those ideas came to be connected to the dollar, the pound, the currency, because, well, maybe the ultimate tool of control could be your money. If your money won't work, where can you go? Maybe we don't need to lock you in your house. Maybe we can just say, well, your credit card won't work today, and neither will any of your other money. So good luck going out. So that's one way of talking about it. But can you see how it becomes an emblem of something? Now, so Elon Musk, for instance, he is an agent of change. He's an emblem of technology, the deployment and the disruption of technology, good or bad, whether that's the fear of what it's going to do to us or the speed with which it will change our lives or the money it will make us. It could be any one of these things. He's a symbol of that, right? Like, and by the way, there's like a meta level, which is, why does financial copy often talk about like Edison and Nikola Tesla? Because those people are emblematic of the sort of genius who changed the world. I mean, Elon Musk called his company Tesla for a reason. He's aware of these connections. He makes play with them. He understands them. Okay, so that all risks getting quite high concept.
Well, yeah. So just to bring it, what we're really saying is that because I think it's an important thing to understand and isolate when it comes to recognizing those zeitgeisty people and objects. It's one to have them, because the basic response would be, yeah, well, they're in the news all the time. Yeah, but there's a lot of news. The ones that cut through are the ones that they are in the news, tick. But then the second tick you're looking for is they also symbolize a bigger, they're emblematic of a deeper truth, a deeper feeling, awareness, anxiety, whatever it might be. And you can see that the relationships that they are emblematic of change in time. The dollar 10 years ago was emblematic of debt, of worries of that thing. Today it's of control and what have you. But you are looking for the connection to a deeper to a deeper feeling or anxiety that the reader might have. And that's now you're starting to, that's what takes just going, whatever that hooked, or I don't know what, really understand what that was all about, but I understand that it was in the zeitgeist. But was it emblematic of something bigger, deeper? Not really. It was just, it was a frivolity. So it captured and disappeared. However, the other things, they've got much deeper things, and that's what gives them that longevity to be in the news cycle longer, and therefore worth writing about and worth thinking about and worth attaching your idea to. So you're looking for that first thing, that they're in the news cycle, but then they need to be emblematic of something deeper. It's not just a personality cult. It's not just a celebrity thing where you're going, oh yeah, he said it, so I'll back onto it. That's only half the story. A really true good piece of copy will take advantage of that, the celebrity element, but actually go to something deeper. And that's what gives it that longevity and that depth.
Why you use the word emblematic? I think you used the far better word, which is they symbolize something. And lots of conceptual copy is about working with symbolic ideas. You know, that's how copy like this works. Nobody wants to know about, I don't know, some technology rollout of new software. But when you dress it up as a person, you know, Donald Trump has a plan to take this technology that you know nothing about and make it integral to your life. That's the same idea described just in two different ways, one using sort of copy and the other not. But it's because Donald Trump wouldn't be the best in that formulation. Elon Musk would probably, but it's because it symbolizes something. So all of what we just talked about, you actually can't control any of that. You can only observe it. Okay. You can observe who's out there, and you can try to maybe understand what those people might symbolize. Okay. So there are some people, I mean, I would use examples from Britain. There's some people that don't really symbolize anything, you know, like Theresa May. You know, if you try to write something about her, even back then, people didn't.
Haunted gallery owner.
Yeah, but it wasn't about her popularity. Yeah, people didn't like her, but then there are, you know, most people don't like someone just because they happen to play. It's like football. They support the wrong team. If they were on your team, you'd like them. It's the whole sort of Gary Neville argument. Like, if you're a United fan, you like him. You see what I mean? It's tribal. Those people don't symbolizing, whereas there are other people out there. I'm trying to think of some. Okay, I want to use Richard Branson as a sort of more widely known British person. Okay, he symbolizes something maybe that other British inventors don't. I don't think Richard Branson probably symbolizes more than, say, who's the guy behind the Hoovers? Dyson. James Dyson. Yeah. I'm trying to play with people. Neither of those people are in the zeitgeist, but one might stand for more than the other. So we're more in. Why is that? And how can we think about this? So it's about observing things. You can also just observe it. It's easier in America, say, because there's a big list universe. You can get your seed account on emails, and you can say, you know, what am I seeing in my inbox? It's a bit harder over here, but it's, you know, all advertising works in this. Why do why do like football bootmakers or, you know, sports brands, why do they pick certain players? Do they pick the football, you know, to advertise them? Do they pick the footballer that scored the most goals or had the most assists or cost the most money? No, that might be the case, but they're more interested in the person that symbolizes something. Could be cool, could be athleticism, it could be
Jack Grealish in the run up to the Euros. I'm pushing my knowledge here.
Go on.
In the run up to the Euros, Jack Grealish was like the guy who was like advertising things, doing burgers, like, yeah, come and have a sit with me in a burger for the Euro. Didn't even get picked. Didn't actually go and play in the thing, but he represents a Jack the lad. Like, oh, he's got his hair and his fully band and all that kind of stuff. The ladies like him. He has his socks undone or something. I don't know. But he's not the best football player, but he represents the thing. And that's why he got chosen. And then ironically, didn't even objectively get, like, whereas, I don't know, someone like...
I'm going to use Phil Foden, a man who symbolizes...
Phil Foden.
You know what I mean? We're using metaphors. Like, two footballers, one is probably the better footballer than the other. They're both very good, but one symbolizes sort of fun and having a good time and sort of understanding what the game's really about, which is like meeting up with your mates and watching the football and it being a communal experience. And the other one doesn't have to symbolize anything bad. It doesn't symbolize those things. So if you're a marketer, you think, well, which one do I want to work with? Which one's going to do the most work? What does a symbol really mean? It's the sense that our customer, our prospect, already has there's meaning there. There's an association there that we can work with. We don't have to start at zero. We don't have to say,
I will once again pitch for the agency that has already done it, if they're not doing it already, for Cole Palmer to be advertising McCain chips for his chippy tea. That advert will appear in the ether in the UK at some point. It just will. Yeah, because it's for those reasons, because you already associate it. So you go, oh yes, that's the thing. I'm trying to attach to that zeitgeist at that moment, and that's what.
So that's what these ideas the qualities these ideas tend to have. Now, once you identify one of them, let's just use the dollar and Elon Musk as examples, but we could use any number. You can send one in if you want, and we'll do a bonus episode where we talk about it. But your choice, you know, it's kind of easy to recognize that these ideas are out there, and it's hard to know what to do because I've seen all of these strategies deployed, and they're kind of all wrong or right depending on how you do them. You can go completely with the grain and say everyone knows Elon Musk's about to make everybody rich, and here's how you get into. You can go sort of super direct and super with the grain. You can go sort of against the grain of the idea. So you can say, like, everybody expects Elon to do X, Y, or Z, but what he's really going to do is going to shock you. That's my preferred version because I think it keeps all of the emotional baggage, but presents a new idea. Or you can just try and talk about something completely different. You can say, everyone's talking about Elon. I'm not going to talk about him. I'm going to talk about some other person. Now, that last idea is tempting. Lots of publishers go down that route because they say, we don't want to just be talking about the same things as everybody else, and everybody's hearing about Elon. And, you know, I know some good publishers that think like that. I would say it's completely wrong in the sense that you're assuming your readers will just change how they feel about the world based on what you put in front of them. And that's not the case. You have to meet them where they are and then talk to them about what you want to talk to them about. That's what copy does. And if you don't meet them where they are, which may be somewhere you don't like, you'll never get that bridge. You'll just be talking to yourself. So in general, I say you have to engage with it, but within that, you still have to try and bring some freshness. You still have to try and bring some twist to it. Now, that's harder to do, but there are some things you can do. I mean, I wrote a promotion about the digital dollar that said, everyone is telling you that they're going to ban cash, they're going to launch a surveillance economy, they're going to make an all digital financial system. And that may be right or it may not be right. But if you listen to that, you'll miss the real story. So then I sort of took them in a new direction. And it can be as subtle as that. You don't want to do that on every single idea, but it all starts with engaging with where they are and then saying, how do I get them from there and get them to talk about what I want to talk about. It's tricky. I would always say, how do you subvert it? Keep it, but subvert it would be my suggestion. But I've seen it work over and over again to just go very, very direct and with the grade. However, if you do that, you're playing a different game. You're saying, I'm doing the same thing as everybody else. So you're doing that thing. You have to be the best. You have to be the most credible, have the best track record, present your argument the most, as clean as possible, make it simpler than everybody else's. So you're competing more directly rather than going in a new direction.
It's harder. It's harder. It's not.
You have to really commit. You can't half-arse it.
Yeah, but not. None of those approaches are wrong. They're just three different approaches that you can take, provided you understand the challenges that will come in each. But also, I think, just to add, which you didn't quite cover off there, in many ways, you've got to look at who you are trying to get to as well. Because if you, it was making me think about, without being political, but there's a massive debate in the political arena right now, given that Trump has become president again, that the Democrats, the other side, are going, well, how come everybody's voted for them? And you don't have to be intelligent to realize it's because the Democrats have not engaged with where people are at.
Yeah.
Which is
or if you were going to be slightly political, you'd say maybe they ignored lots of things that people cared about. So,
yeah. Either way, they have not spoken to the mass audience. They've spoken to the audience they want to get to. Now, again, yes, moving back away from the political, but that just using that as a bridge. If you want to go for a very minor audience who will go, I'm fed up of hearing about this, and I don't believe that's fine, have at it. But be aware that you're going to a specifically smaller audience, and therefore that's much harder to get a conversion, to get a sale, to persuade people there. If you're going for a bigger audience, a broader audience, you need to go where that audience is at. So you can't go, everybody's talking about this, I'm going to talk about this. It's like, well, no, everybody's talking about that. I want to talk about what everybody's talking about. So you've got to add all of that into your mind from a business point of view. Do I want to go to those people? If you do, fine. That's going to lean you towards that rather than going for a direct compete on where everybody else is talking about, because you want to do that, and that's fine. So it's just being aware of each of these decisions influence how you're going to write about the idea, but B, also like where you're going to go, which avenue you're going to go down. So you just need to think about all of those things.
There are some other things you can do, by the way. I actually don't think the political thing is, politics is about messaging, and messaging is about symbolism. So you can study it, and you should study it all, particularly the people that win. I would say, whoever they are, what did they become a symbol of? Barack Obama, what was his symbolism? It was change. Be the change you want to see in the world. That's brilliant symbolism. This is why he won. This is why he's still regarded as a great president, because he made himself the symbol of something that people wanted. You could use a different example from of it going wrong. Keir Starmer, a man nobody outside the UK will know. Most people in the UK probably don't know. He's a sort of lawyer. I think that's what he did.
Harvard was a toolmaker, I know that one.
Yeah, exactly, but that's symbolism, right? This is exactly what I was going to say. He said, my father was a toolmaker, which is a very, very strange thing. It's the sort of thing that a 3-year-old would say who doesn't really understand what their dad did. And of course, I would guess that was because it was probably not quite the truth. But he was trying to use that as a symbol. Like, look, I'm not who I appear to be. I come from a different background of sorts. Now he won, so you could say it worked, or maybe it didn't work, but he was trying to use symbols. One solution you can apply to this is just get out of that sphere. So if you don't want to talk about Elon Musk, and you don't want to talk about Keir Starmer, and you don't want to talk about this, and you don't want to talk about that, you can take a different approach, and you can come closer to me, the prospect, and say, I'm not going to talk to you about any of that stuff. It's all a pantomime. there's something far more urgent and personal going on in your life that I want to talk to you about. Now, that again uses some of it, but not a lot of it, and it just brings it back. But that would be the answer. If you don't want to engage with that world of just kind of picking a cast of characters and writing about them, well, pick the character that's at the heart of the story, which is always your prospect, and make it about their life, because then you know they care about it.
Or I would, as an alternative, go all the way to the other end of the scale and focus purely on the product that you are selling and what is about that product that is unique and interesting, that has nothing to do with what Musk's doing, with nothing to do with what Keir Starmer's doing. It has to do with the product. It's the car that is so quiet that you can only hear the ticking clock. It's like, what is, so you've always got that spectrum, if you like, of the customer and the product, and those are where your two ideas are generally you can go. What we're talking about is almost a kind of world where you go into this, and that's where the realm of big ideas happen. That's where we recognize something's happening now that you as a copywriter should be aware of, because it's like a kind of free hit. If you can find that the right person that is the emblem of something, that ideas kicking off in the zeitgeist, in the world, that thing, you should at least have one idea, one piece of copy that is working within that world. You can go back to the person, you can go back to there, but that's where you're looking for, because you've got some proof that it works. And that's what we're talking about there. That
around its pulls on this. I would wrap up by saying this. What we're talking about, whether you end up using it as a copy idea, let's say you're selling a weight loss product, you probably don't need to talk to me about Elon Musk. Okay. Unless he's just lost 50 pounds, it's probably not that important or relevant to me. You can just talk about me and your product and how it's different. However,
but Joe Wicks is a symbol of weight loss, blah, blah, blah. So you've got that. There's someone always in the area if you wanted to go down that way.
Or the drug Ozempic. That's an object-based thing that people are starting to. I know a couple of people that are taking it now, even in the UK. It's just buzzing around in the zeitgeist. So you could use that. Whether you end up using this or not, what the exercise that we're really talking about, why it matters, is it forces you to try and project yourself into your prospect's head and say, who's in there with them? Who are they hearing about, reading about? Who do they care about? Who do they hate? Who do they love? Who do they feel intrigued about? So Elon Musk, another, again, great example. Lots of people now are saying, who is this guy? What's this guy doing? Particularly in the UK, right? Because he's kind of made this weird entry into British politics, which nobody understands, at least of all me. But people will say, what's going on with that? Or what's going on with this Bitcoin thing? Is that still around? If there's a question there, something to work with, then that's fertile ground. So at the very least, if you spend time thinking like this, what's part of your reader's dream space? I'm going to use that as my, what's in there? Who's in there with them and what's in there with them? Because at the very least, that orientates yourself within your reader's mind and says, right, well, maybe we could work with some of these things, or maybe we couldn't, but the exercise will be useful nonetheless.
When we are uber successful and have production on this, as you said, that like prog rock would have just started, I think it's Dreamscape. I don't know. There's a really, really cerebral, esoteric prog rock band who are called something like that. Please write in comment if you know what band I'm talking about. My friend Sam went through. It wasn't Dreamscape. Who was it? But they do 20-minute prog songs.
Sounds fun. No.
Anyway.
Right, let's wrap this up. We can do a part 2 and part 3 and part 4. If there's an idea you want us to dissect, send it in. You can reach us via all the usual channels. You can comment below if you're on YouTube. Get in touch with us however you like. And we will deconstruct the idea and talk about it. Because as with all things, this kind of thing is best understood when it's, around a specific idea. So it's not abstract, it's specific. We've tried to give examples, but we can talk about more. But for now, why don't we wrap this baby up?
Wrap, baby, wrap. On that on the bombshell. We'll see you next time.
Thank you very much.
That's
Bye-bye.
all for this episode, but if you'd like to get your copy reviewed, or you've seen some copy you want Nick and Glenn's opinion on, get in touch at feedback@thefixcopywriting.com. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and share.